know, where you get like those 4 or 5 straight days of like -10, -20. Fishing does just generally get tougher when you get into like mid-January, typically through February.
I mean, that's one of the coolest things with forward-facing sonar is just the knowledge you get, a fish mentality.
I learned at a young age, or like just bought into, is it's so much easier to find and catch fish if you just understand them.
Are you using forward-facing sonar then?
Yeah, absolutely. I fully utilize forward-facing sonar. It's one of those, it's not going away. It's just not. I respect everyone's opinion on it, but it's a tool like anything else. It doesn't make fish jump in the boat, believe me. I've had plenty of days where I caught
confirm.
nothing. You know, forward-facing sonar doesn't kill fish. People kill fish.
Can you just talk to me a little bit about like your strategy going out with forward-facing sonar?
So like when I use it ice fishing, I use it.
Get ready to take notes today because we got a crash course in forward-facing sonar and walleye fishing and walleye behavior. We got Jadyn Thomas with us from the Fargo SCHEELS store, who is probably more obsessed with fish than anybody I know, and he gives a ton of great information on how to target walleye, forward-facing sonar information, and a couple of really good ice fishing stories. Here we go. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for ice fishing?
10. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it for a couple weeks now, but with the prolonged, like, it was a nice gradual fall this year. Took advantage and like just finished my open water season like 3 days ago. So still been enjoying it, but I've been looking forward to hard water for probably like 3 weeks now. Yeah.
What sort of emotions do you have when you're like putting the boat away?
Oh, it's always sad. You know, it's sad, but it's fun because then, you know, you start cleaning stuff out and you see little things remind you of like differences throughout the year. Like me, and I'm notorious for like this year I pulled 4 bags of SCHEELS, 4 SCHEELS bags out of different carts of the boat with lures that I never touched that I bought, you know, like hundreds of dollars of stuff I thought I needed at the time, but like maybe only use the same couple of lures I usually do or tried one new one. So like that'll be like, oh, where'd this from? Oh yeah, that was from this trip. That was from when we went up north. Like, oh yeah, why'd I get these? Oh yeah, that was for that trip. So cool, kind of reminisce, but it's good to get the boat put away and put it to bed and put the season to bed too.
So can you say our marketing efforts were successful in getting you to buy lures?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then that was the theme of this year, and I think you'll see it again. Already looking forward to next open water season. There's a lot of cool lure designs coming out. And a lot of it is obviously influenced by forward-facing sonar, but it's nice to see how kind of all companies have realized that and are kind of trying to get their own piece of the pie on that. And there's a lot of good stuff that came out this last year and a lot of good stuff you'll see already next year.
So were there any that just came out this past year that you were like, okay, this is potentially going to be one of my new go-tos that actually get tied on? Yeah,
one of them was the Berkeley finisher. Like all the hype was real around it. And that bait, you know, really caught fire. I know guys were using it ice fishing, and I tried it ice fishing, and I caught fish on it, but like I guess I never had a bite where I was like, oh, this is out fishing everything else, you know, 3 to 1 or 4 to 1.
Yeah.
So like I knew, okay, catches fish, but then you saw in like some of the early tournaments, like in April and May, like guys out east in the Great Lakes were using it and it was working really well. Then it kind of just swept through. Me and my cousin started using a lot in like Minnesota lakes around like early to late June, and it worked really well. Then it kind of carried over. You saw, I know when a couple of professional walleye circuits went out west to like Skakawea, that bait was a staple in pretty much everyone's boat. We followed suit and we went out there like a couple days after the event for a week, and that was one of the best baits you could throw. So yeah, it lived up to all the hype that Berkeley put around it. Great bait.
That's awesome. Yeah, I used the finisher ice. I used it at Winnipeg, and it was pretty good. Like, I don't know if it necessarily outfished a lot of stuff, but I really enjoyed using that. And I put a bladed treble hook on the back to get that little extra flash. And then on forward-facing sonar, you'd even see like the flash of that other treble. And they really liked it, especially like early in the morning when they were aggressive. That bait rocked.
See, that's where I tried it too. Where it was like I caught 3 or 4 fish. Okay, yeah, I catch fish. Put a rattle bait down, caught 3 or 4.
Yeah,
put a spoon out, got 3 or 4. Okay. I
kind of use it during high percentage situations.
But that's good to do with a new bait because that's how you get confidence in it too.
Oh, exactly.
And then that will also tell you, like, if they're biting everything, if you put that on, they don't bite. It's like, oh, that's a problem.
Yeah, I need to totally change my cadence or strategy or whatever. How did you use it in the summer?
Really worked it like a lot like a jig and wrap. You know, it's a glide bait without the fins. You know, that's the category it fits into. But where it really shined and was unique, you could pop it like a glide bait, like a jig and wrap, shiver minnow, hyper rattle, whichever one you fancy, to get that kind of reaction from fish to cover water and get fish to see it, notice it. If they didn't kill it right away, you know, you didn't get that initial reaction. What you couldn't do with a lot of the other glide baits before is they were too heavy and just how they're designed. They just fell too fast. This one you can hover. You can go from ripping it 3, 4, 5 feet at a time to just bouncing your rod tip a couple inches, and it just like almost walks the dog back and forth or hangs in place, rocking side to side. So you can get a fish to react or turn on, to at least look at, acknowledge it, swim up to it. But you get some of those that maybe always didn't want to chase a ton or kill it on the initial fall. So you could hang in their face for 5-10 seconds, really work them. You can entice a lot of bites. So it was like the perfect combination of aggression and finesse in a bait.
Nice. I imagine that'd be a pretty good early ice bait too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I liked about it when I did use it ice fishing, was like just said how well I could just dance it in place. I could get a lot of movement with very little rod action. So again, when you rip it like a traditional glide, like a jig and wrap, it dances around in a wide circle beneath the ice, so fish can see it from a distance. Has a good attraction qualities to it, but not all those fish come in and kill it right away. Some fish like to look, nose it. Well, you can entice bites out of this instead of just getting them to react with that finisher. Yeah.
Nice. What are some other early ice baits that you really like to use?
So I guess me personally, so if we're talking like walleyes, I'd spend a lot of my time ice fishing, chasing panfish. Last year I kind of took a break and mainly did walleye throughout the entire season, but I really still like to enjoy walleyes that first like 4 weeks of the ice season, because it's usually just the same as the late fall bite was, which is always phenomenal. And it just carries over to the early ice season when they got a couple inches of ice above their heads. More than a couple inches. Please do not walk out on 2 or 3 inches. I'm not doing that.
Float suit and spud bar.
Absolutely. But early ice, the fish are typically shallow and aggressive, so it's a lot of fun. So a lot of my baits mirror that. I like the big aggressive stuff that calls them in. So like number 5 rip and wraps, a go-to. I'll go to a 6 if I know I got a lake that's got really big fish like trophy potential. Big rattle spoons, quarter, 3/8, typically what I'm using. Big flutter spoons, that quarter, 5/16 ounce. Just something big, heavy, and aggressive. And the advantage with going with those bigger and heavier baits, like good example, like I'll use a 3/8 ounce spoon in 5 feet of water. And people are like, why do you need all that weight? It's so shallow. It's like, it's not to get it down there fast. It's that bait's so heavy, you need to work it aggressively to get it to move right and to get it to call fish in. Like if you try to finesse a 3/8 ounce spoon, it's not going to move very much. You might as well just put a jig and a minnow down there.
Yeah,
right?
it's like lift it up and down.
Right, but if you have a heavy like number 6 rip and wraps, a 1/2 ounce. Northland has a new thumper spoon that's a 1/4 ounce, the big size. But if you want to get those baits to move, like I said, cover water and draw fish in, you need to work them aggressively. You need to be able to move that weight.
So will your techniques change from like early to late then?
Yeah, so there's a progression, kind of just like open water. Typically, early ice fish are very aggressive, even though they're still putting the fall feed bag on. Usually that goes until you get that really like that polar vortex we always get, to that deep freeze. Usually comes end of December, mid-January is usually when you see it, where you get like those 4 or 5 straight days of like -10, -20, where it gets just bitterly cold. That usually then pushes a lot of fish deep. There'll always be some fish shallow that we always know, but the majority of your fish and majority of your body's water will push deep. And again, deep's a relative term, depending on the body of water, but typically they'll move off that first break or that first ledge closer to whatever you would consider your lake's basin. That's where a lot of the bait fish push. That's where they move. But the other problem when you get to that part of the season, that midwinter, it's so cold, the fish's metabolism is at an all-time low. They need to eat the least amount they do all year, the least often. So fishing does just generally get tougher when you get into like mid-January, typically through February. Well, then when you start to get like those first warm days, or the snow starts to melt a little bit, we start seeing like consistent like right around 30 or even touching 40. When you start to get that thaw, that water of snow or the top layer ice going back into the lake, the fish feel that. And typically that's going to come near shorelines or shallow structures, going to get the warmer quick. So those fish will feel that and start pushing and staging off of areas they're going to spawn. They're not pushing into spawning areas yet. I think that's a misconception. They'll typically stay off either the first flat or first break line, wherever they spawn. When you get into like early March, and then that'll carry out typically however late we have ice. Some years it's end of March, some years it's mid-April. But then I get really aggressive again. Again, big baits again, big aggressive moves. So it's pretty much the same stuff you're doing early ice, just 2 or 3 months later.
I'm glad you brought big aggressive baits back, because I had a question that I thought I missed.
Oh, sorry.
Early season on lakes that you would consider like pressured. Are you still willing to use that same big bait strategy?
Absolutely. I'll always start with that and just let the fish tell me different. Good example I have is like last year I was fishing Gull Lake, early ice. I think it was like early January still, but we were still walking out. Last year was just a little different year with weather-wise. And Gull is one of the best lakes in Minnesota for walleyes, but everyone and their grandma knows that too, so everyone fishes it, and those fish are super pressured. There isn't a walleye over 14 inches that hasn't seen a bait in that lake, in my opinion. So you got to kind of earn everyone you catch, and it's notorious for what a lot of Minnesotans call flash bites, where you have first half hour in the morning, first half hour in the evening, and kind of fishing during the day is, I don't want to say a waste, but just expected to be tougher. Well, we're out there fishing, and we fished the morning bite, and it was pretty slow, so I wanted, some of the guys want to move or go back for the midday lull. I decided to stay out and just keep fishing, and I was seeing fish, and I couldn't get them to react to like rattle baits. I was using like bigger glide baits, and Gull was very clear water, so I was using stuff that's like a lot of metallics, a lot of chromes, a lot of flash instead of like a rattle or a noise. In clear water, I like stuff that they can see more than they can hear. I'll do vice versa in dirty water. But like I was saying, I was using some bigger baits, and I was getting them to come in, but they weren't really interested in it. Well, then I also had like a dead stick down with just like a minnow and a plain hook. Well, they weren't hitting that either. So it's like, okay, they're not even acknowledging a plain hook and a minnow. They're looking, they're acknowledging my baits, but they're not eating it. So it's like, I can get a reaction out of them. Just what do I got? I got to dial this part of it, because I have ultra finesse on my left and super aggressive on my right, and they're leaning more towards the right of the aggression. Just maybe I got to dial in a bit. So what I did was,
what you did.
I just downsized my jigging wrap. That's all I did. I went from like a number 5 or 7 to a number 3.
No, I was gonna guess a natural color, like a perch.
Well, I was still using natural colors, said like silvers, blues, golds, like purples. But when I downsized to number 3, they'd come in, still look, but then they would fully eat it. So I went from, we only caught, I think, 1 or 2 fish that morning from like, sun up. So I think it was about maybe 10 or 10:30 when some of the other guys left. I stayed out till like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I think in that time period, I caught 3 more walleyes, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you have guys when you talk about some of these lakes where said people just leave during the middle of the day because they say it's not even worth like trying for them. Catching 3, I think, during the middle of the day in a pressure body of water like that, you can call that a win.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
People think like some of these top people catch like 30, 40 fish a day. It's like, no, sometimes, you just get a few, and that's your good day too. And
like a lot of times, like even when you have great days, it wasn't catching fish all day for like 4 or 5 hours. It might have been, you catch, let's say you're fishing walleyes, you catch 3 or 4 in the morning, then in like an hour and a half window, then you go 5 hours where you catch 2 or 3. Very spaced out. Then your last hour and a half, you catch 4 more. But when you add it up, 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening, 3 during the day. I mean, you caught 11 walleyes during the day. That's a pretty good day. Most places you go.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Most places you go, you hit double-digit walleyes. You can call that a win. So I think perspectives sometimes get lost when people see people on social media or videos. And I always kind of like putting it out there, because trust me, there's very few people that go out and catch them every single time. There really is.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so many different factors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you talk that you're watching these fish, are you using forward-facing sonar then?
Yeah, absolutely. I fully utilize forward-facing sonar. Obviously, it's like the controversy, and it kind of gets just old to talk about, because it's one of those, it's not going away. It's just not.
Right.
You can have your opinions on it, and I respect everyone's opinion on it, but it's not going to go away. It's a tool like anything else. It doesn't make fish jump in the boat, believe me. I've had plenty of days where I caught
confirm.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. I've had plenty of days where I caught nothing, where I could see them and they wouldn't bite, or I couldn't put the puzzle together. So that's even more frustrating those days where you see, you know exactly what it is. I know it's a 28-inch walleye sitting 50 feet in front of me. It's looked at 3 different baits. It's turned it. It's swam away from me 5 different casts. I've tried casts. I can't get right on it. Or like ice fishing, you try to drill on a school of panfish and they just don't want nothing to do with you. You get within 30 feet of them walking and they slowly are already pushing away. Like, those are the days that are the most frustrating. And I think the people that still like think it's cheating, they haven't used it enough or at all, or experienced those instances where there's so many factors, like you said, that still go into a successful day.
Yeah. You can see how someone would call it cheating, but you get out and use it and it is absolutely not.
Yeah, there's a lot of work and nuance that goes into using it and understanding it.
Absolutely. Yeah. My most frustrating day using forward-facing sonar was Lake Winnipeg. We were, up, and basically what we'd do is we'd drill around and then we'd, spin it a full revolution and see how many fish were like around in the area. And we struggled finding them, and then we just went out like way out deep, like 4 or 5 miles into like basically the abyss. And we found a whole bunch of pressure ridges and a lot of thick snow. And to the point where like we could barely get through with our augers. And then we found just the mother load of fish. Like, I'd scan around and I'd see like 20 or so in one revolution, and like big marks, like they're here. Holy smokes. And I'd be danged if I could catch one of them. It's like, look at all the fish here. Not a single one will bite. I threw like 30 different lures at it, and no.
Especially a place like Winnipeg, they say they're all walleyes.
They're
all big.
Exactly.
Like, that's one of the maybe a dozen places in the country, or like the North America, where you can have schools of hundreds, thousands of giant walleyes.
Yeah,
that's so frustrating.
That's my target species right there, but they will not bite. Oh man. Yeah. So can you just talk to me a little bit about like your strategy going out with forward facing sonar? Like, how many holes are you drilling before you're fishing, or you're fishing right away?
So like when I use it ice fishing, I use it more as a search tool than I do sitting down and fish. I still like to sit down and fish with like a Vexar or flasher, especially if I'm like hole hopping or fishing outside. And there's a ton of great options. Every brand of forward-facing sonar has an option to make it portable, and there's tons of aftermarket stuff, or independent companies that make products that make these portable, like these shuttles using lithium batteries, these poles. So it's if you sit down and fish with forward-facing sonar, like, I'm not knocking anyone who does it. Like, if it works for you, great. Again, if that's the tool that fits your need, beautiful. I use it a lot more just to find fish. So like when I go out, I typically, still look at maps, where's my high percentage area, depending on the species I'm looking at, and drill my first hole and scan around. If I don't see fish, I'm not going to fish. I'm not going to put a line in the water. And then I'll keep moving till I find fish, or I find the right amount of fish, right class of fish. Just depends on, what's my goal for the day. And then it kind of depends on the species. Like if we're keeping it more walleye focused, I don't chase and drill on top of fish like I do schools of panfish, just because it seems like walleyes are a lot more, right? They don't let you do that as the same way a school of crappies would, I think that's just maybe from the aspect of, and this is just my theory, I'm just spitballing here, but like, I think it's just more, you think of walleyes, I'll put pike and bass in the same kind of classes, like they're more predatory fish than like bluegills, right? So like, if like bluegills and crappies are deer, walleyes are more like wolves, right? Predator doesn't like to be spooked, or they don't like to get surprised. They like kind of keeping that cover and thinking they're hidden, especially if they are moving around hunting. So I always just like to stay either just off of them, or if I do drill right on top of them, they're sitting right on like the prime piece of structure, I'm willing to spook them to at least get a hole where they're going to be, because I know then I'll sit there and fish for 20 minutes, half an hour, and just they'll come back. Or I'll remember
they'll
that
likely
area.
be more moving through the area.
Correct. So just either get right in the area that they are, or if they're holding to a key piece structure or a key travel route, I'm willing to spook them just to get in the right area, because I know said fish, then I'll fish for 20 minutes, half an hour, just see if they'll come back. If they don't come back in that time, then I'll keep moving on, because those fish clearly weren't aggressive. They weren't looking to feed anyway if they completely abandoned the area.
Yeah. Yep. Reminds me a lot of deer hunting, actually. It's like if you're going out during the rut, like you want to get into a doe bedding area, you're probably going to spook one, but you know, there's a good chance they're going to come back, or that buck is going to come and scent check that area or something like that. And you're going to get yourself in the chips.
And, you know, to that again, every lake's different. And I think that goes back to the pressure thing you talked about too. Like there's lakes where, you can't draw them, we'll spook them out. Then you got to sit and wait for them to come back. Lake Winnipeg is an example. You can go and drill on top of a 28 inches head. It's not going to move. There's just so many fish. Like it's such a massive body of water with so many fish. There's so many fish that are they're not educated. You know, they're not pressured. Even with the amount of people still going up there, which is great because it's a phenomenal destination fishery. Everyone should experience Lake Winnipeg in their lifetime if you love big walleyes. But, you know, it's not the same as, like, the people who tell me when they went, you know, in the early to late 2000s, you know, when there was, like, nobody out there, right?
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of people that go and make the annual trip for good reason. But even still, with all the traffic and pressure it gets, it's still far from a pressured body of water. You know, especially when compared to lakes around here, like in Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, you know, lakes that probably see 20, 30 houses a day minimum every single day from ice up to ice out.
Yeah, and when you're talking pressure, I think you're onto something with that strategy of like using a flasher when you're actually sit down and catching them, because like there's a lot of sonar waves hitting those fish, and if you're running it on down, like all those pulses are literally straight down on that fish, and I've seen a lot of negativity with that. And then if you're switching to a Vexilar or like some other flasher like that, you're getting hit with a lot less waves, but you're still, as long as you know how to read it properly, you're still seeing the same thing.
Yeah, and that's what is the power output. And I fished enough, and I've seen it with all species from walleye. I've seen it with perch, crappie, bluegill, like all of the most popular ones through the ice. There are times that it 100% spooks them. Like I've tested this theory many times, like taking out all the variables. Like I'm sitting there, I haven't moved for hours, nothing's making noise, I'm sitting as still as possible. The only thing on and in the water, I don't even have a line in the water. Like the only thing in the water is that forward-facing sonar deucer, and I'm seeing a pod of bluegills swimming at me. I see them 100 feet out. They're coming towards me, they're at 80. They're still coming straight at me, they're at 60. They're still coming at me, they're at 50. They're still coming at me, they're at 40. They get to 30, they stop, and they completely swim the other direction.
Yeah, it's wild.
And I've all seen them. They come, and then all of a sudden they're coming straight towards me. They get to about 30-ish feet. That seems to always be the zone where you're going to tell if they're going to react negatively or not. Gets about 30, and this is in forward mode.
Yeah.
I'm at 30 feet out, and all of a sudden, instead of them still come straight at me, I lose. They disappear. I'm like, where'd they go? I turn the deucer. So let's say I'm going clockwise. They're swimming completely around me. Anytime the sonar hits them again, they change direction. So instead of them coming straight at me and coming under me with a chance to catch them, they come at me till about 30 feet. Then they just do a complete half circle around me, get back on the original path they would have taken, and they keep going. It's wild. I've seen it with bluegills, crappies, perch, walleyes. I saw it in Winnipeg last year. So and again, there are times that makes a difference. There's times it doesn't. It's kind of like people say, like, oh, you can't play music while we're fishing, they'll hear it. I've been in 5 feet of water with a stereo blaring, sitting right on the ice, massacring walleyes. Like them coming in, not even, you hardly mark them and you smack it. I've seen times in 30 feet of water, you drop a pop can on the ice and a fish that's below you, all of a sudden, doom, darts off. So I've seen it both ways. And I think it goes back to like, when fish are aggressive and looking to feed, fish are very dumb. Your margin for error is super wide. It's similar like a buck in the rut, right? You try to get that trophy buck September, early October, very wary, like only moving at night, like won't step out in the open to feed, right? You get to the rut, big buck sees a doe sitting out in the middle of an open pasture, middle of the day, it knows it shouldn't do it, that's a danger zone. Just steps right out. Just doesn't. The only thing on its mind is that doe, right? When fish are looking to feed, the only thing on their mind is food. They will make a lot of mistakes. When they're not looking to feed, they go back to being very wary, and any little thing can turn them off or send them the other direction. So, I guess to bring it full circle, I use forward-facing sonar absolutely to locate fish, and sometimes fish, like if I'm in a house, multiple people, just so we don't have, so everyone can look at the same screen, we can kind of understand it. But as soon as I see fish reacting negatively to it, I turn it off.
Okay.
Turn it off and just rely on the flasher. The Vexilar, that's the thing that we used for 50, 60 years before forward-facing sonar came out, and caught plenty of fish with it before it came out. So
yeah,
Do
definitely.
different like units respond differently for fish like that?
yeah, so like
Sonar?
different brand, like it all depends on like the power output. That's why personally I've always stayed with Vexilar, not to knock any other companies, but I've noticed they have the least amount of power output for their units. So and still give a great clear picture, low interference, great target separation. So that's the brand of flasher I choose to use. Although all of them are great still, but that's why I've stuck with Vexilar. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, every brand's a little different in like the power output they produce.
Yeah. One thing that had caught my attention is the new Humminbird bundle we have that comes with like the regular puck deucer too. And I was like, I think I would really like that, because then you still have your forward facing sonar, but then like when you're going to fish on top of them, you just leave that live unit out and switch to the puck transducer, and then you don't have all of that, that sonar interference and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah, that's a great option. Like and that goes with any brand. Like if you can do that with Garmin, you can do that with Lowrance. They all make ice deucers for the same locators that you utilize, whether it's Active Target, Live Scope, or Mega Live. You can get an ice fishing deucer that's similar to like, the Vexilar or Markham flasher deucer for those open water screens as well. And if anyone's confused by like, what do you mean, like you turn it off, or you're turning like the whole unit off? No, on every brand there's an option to like either stop sonar, pause it, or turn off the forward-facing sonar deucer itself. You do that and your screen still works and do other things, just that's not pinging anymore. If you hold it up to your ear when it's on, you'll hear the little tick of the transducer putting out a signal. You turn it off or stop it or pause it, whatever, you just hold the deucer up to you, you'll hear it, you won't hear that tick anymore. So that's how you know it's not on anymore.
Yep. And so like the first forward facing unit I used was like the OG Panoptics.
Yeah, the PS22.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then so like the kit I got came with like the regular deucer and the forward facing sonar. And what I really like to do is I'd like to run the forward facing in one hole and then the puck in the other. So you'd like run and you could see that way, like one way or another with the Panoptics deucer, and then just actually fish with the other one. It's a good way to do it.
So any of these units people could use for open water or ice fishing?
Absolutely, yep. Forward facing sonar is that, and that's why one thing that helps with kind of they're all expensive, right? I don't want to downplay, say like, anyone can go buy it, like it's easy. No, they're all expensive anywhere. Typically if you're looking to get the forward facing sonar with any brand, typically expect to spend anywhere, I'd say from minimum $2,000 to probably, if more common, is around $3 to $4, right? And you can go higher than that. You can make it as flashy, bougie, expensive as you really want, But I'd say at minimum, look to spend about $2,000 to get into a good unit that's going to do everything you want. When you're talking forward-facing sonar, helps maybe numb like the pain when you swipe the card or shell out the cash.
Buy once, cry once.
Buy once, cry once, but you're buying something you can use 12 months out of the year. This isn't just an ice fishing unit. This isn't just an open water unit. And honestly, where we live, pretty much, if you're listening to this, you live in the Midwest, you probably have. If you were to split them both, if you had to buy a unit for open water, you're only getting like 4 to 6 months out of it. If you buy a unit for ice, 4 to 6 months out of it. So now with forward facing sonar, you're getting something that's literally a 12-month use and go straight from the boat onto ice and vice versa. Yep.
Yeah, I bought a pole mount that I can use all year round. I'm running an Arc Lab one, and I just have like 2 different mounts in the boat, and then I just run my ice shuttle the whole time. I don't even rig it into the boat. Like I got a good lithium battery. It'll last as long as I need. And then I'm just portable. I can move to the front. I can move to the back. Doesn't matter.
Yours is like a backpack unit, kind of.
Well, I mean, it's not a backpack unit. Well, sometimes I guess I have a couple of different like bags that I could use, but yeah, like SCHEELS makes a carry bag system. Like actually it was one from probably like 5 years ago or something like that. I don't think it was even totally designed for the forward facing sonar units, but it was big enough you could jimmy rig it.
Well, we came out. SCHEELS has a new bag this year of like a live sonar shuttle bag. That's awesome. It fits every shuttle. Even fits like a the inline Garmin ones, like probably the biggest one, just as far as like surface area covers, it fits that. So if it's that, fits the Summit, should fit Arc Lab, should fit, I know it fits HD Innovation Shuttle, it fits them all. And it can fit up to a 12-inch screen, which is awesome as well, because that's the other thing with forward-facing sonar just getting more popular is just, it used to be a 9-inch screen was a big screen, right? If you had a 9-inch screen, it was like, you fish, like, you fish a lot, then it went to 10. Now like 10 and 12s are the norm. It's just, that's kind of wild to see too. But it's cool because like the bigger the screen you go, the more definition, more detail you get, and target separation. It's really cool what we've been able to learn and see these last few years of forward-facing sonar. Really cool.
And that's one of the coolest things with forward-facing sonar is just the knowledge you get of how, fish mentality and things like that, what they do, where they are.
I feel like it's a biology class every time Jadyn's on.
It kind of
like
is.
learning all about fish, because you learn so much watching them, and so it's very fascinating.
Well, I think that's the things everyone should like understand too. What I learned at a young age, or like just bought into, is it's so much easier to find and catch fish if you just understand them. It's one thing like you land on a good bite and just I really caught them, but it's like I've always preached, make sure you understand the why. Why'd you catch them? Why were they biting that? Why were they here? Why did they bite it this time and not this time? Why are they here now and not a week ago? So if you can, and before forward-facing sonar, a lot of it was, theory or just like kind of guessing, just hoping we were right. It's cool with forward-facing sonar to see how much was actually true and how much was, no, it's actually the complete opposite. You just got lucky, know? Yeah. That's why I always pay homage to a lot of the people that came before us that, a lot of stuff now we're seeing forward-facing sonar, they knew and said, and they proved them right. Really, really wild when you think about a lot of these guys who fish like, let's even say like, 70s, 80s, 90s that figured out a lot of these theories and principles that we still use today. That was before they even had, paper graphs. They just literally had like lake map.
Yeah, but understanding, like where are they feeding, where are they...
Exactly, yeah. So like I think that's a thing that goes underrated if you really want to be a better fisherman is, kind of learn the biology of fish and or the ecosystem of lakes. If you understand how fish move and how they react to their ecosystem, you can have so many more successful trips because you eliminate so much water if you know where they should be at different times of year or based on the body of water.
And by being able to watch them through that forward-facing sonar, you kind of get to that first-hand
experience. It proves
experience.
and confirms so many things. So you can be like solid in it. Yep, I know they're doing this. I see them. Like I see what they're doing. Like before you couldn't. It was all theory because you couldn't see into the water. Unless you're fishing shallow, clear. Sight fishing. Now you can. Lake of the Woods, 30 feet of water, coffee stained water where you can't see more than 2 or 3 feet. You know exactly what those fish are doing, how they're moving, and you can kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together so much easier because you can confirm everything when you look at it.
Yeah. I love this whole like knowledge aspect of stuff because, to me, it kind of comes down to like the haters of the industry saying like, oh, people with live scope are going to destroy the fishery. But then you like listen to people like you that are using it to gain knowledge and to understand things, to be able to catch more. It's like, does this dude really want to destroy the fishery that he's spent countless hours like learning about and understanding? Like, why would you want to wreck it at that point? It's just silly.
And that's where it kind of goes back to like a principle in life. There's good and bad people in every walks of life, I'd say majority of fishermen are great, respect for the resource. They follow the limit rules. There's, we're living in a day where the angler's more educated than ever before, understanding maybe we shouldn't fish these fish during the spawn, or, states maybe close the season during the spawn, right? Or fish are relating really deep, the whole barrow trauma thing. Guys are understanding, well, maybe we should just leave these alone, or if we're going to fish these fish, keep what we catch, then move on. That's a whole other conversation we can get into, but I think it just goes back to forward-facing sonar. Again, it's a tool. Forward-facing sonar doesn't kill fish. People kill fish. People wreck bites. People ruin fisheries. It's on us as anglers just be responsible enough to know, maybe have our own personal rules and regulations as well as the state or province that we're fishing in, and just be smart. Don't be greedy. All anglers are inherently a little greedy, because we all want to catch more and bigger fish every time. But if we just go into it with good morals and principles while utilizing these tools, we'll be able to enjoy these fisheries for years to come.
Nice. I like it. So let's do a little bit of product talk here. So
fun.
Got Jadyn Thomas, ice fishing expert at the Fargo store. I'm coming into the Fargo store. 3 different customers. I want like good, better, and best recommendations. Like somebody that's like, I needed as cheap as I can get, but I want to get into forward-facing sonar. One that's like, I want to just refine it a little bit. And then there's one that, give me the best one you got.
Yeah, so if we're looking at, like, if you're just looking to get into it, you know, budget, like I said, about $2,000 is where you kind of got to think minimum. And there's two good options we got right now at SCHEELS. You have from Garmin, it's a live scope ice fishing bundle. It's going to come with the current Garmin EchoMap UHD2 9-inch screen. So great screen. It's the current model. You're going to get the LVS 32 transducer. That's the original live scope that came out 6 or 7 years ago now. You know, it was the first deucer that changed everything. You know, it was the one that came after the PS22. So I said the PS22 was great, but it was like live sonar, you know, kind of blobby, a little, not laggy is the right word, but just thing wasn't as crisp, right? It was sonar blobs moving in real time, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like live scope was like live down imaging. You know, if anyone knows the difference between 2D sonar and down imaging, you know, just how crisp, clean, and defined it was. Like I always describe it as like taking a true picture of the bottom. Well, now you're seeing that picture move in real time. It's like in Harry Potter when the pictures like can move, you know, like on the newspaper and stuff. That's what live scope was like, you know. So $2,000 will get you into that, and that'll come with everything you need: the 9-inch screen, the LVS 32 deucer, black box, cables. It'll come with a portable pack as well as the ice fishing pole. So $2,000, you're good to go. The one thing I would recommend is just upgrading the battery to a high amp lithium battery. That's one thing that we found with all this forward-facing sonar. No matter which brand you use, no matter which screen you use, you always want to look at getting a lithium battery. I'd say minimum 30 amp hour. There's 30 amp hour, 32s, 48s, 52s, but I'd say always a minimum 30 amp hour because that'll give you a true full day of fishing, you know, 8-10 hours no matter what setup you're running.
Yeah, I run the 18. It doesn't get me through an entire day. So you got to have a backup then.
And again, like I'm not counting anyone's money, or, you know, I understand everyone's situation is different, right? But I always look at it as like, so you're willing to spend $2,000 on this, but you're going to cheap out on the battery. Like you won't spend, you know, $150, $200 extra to make sure this $2,000 investment you got runs for 10 hours instead of 4 or 5.
Yeah.
That's the way to look at it. You know?
I know. But no, lithium, cut the weight in half, double the runtime.
Exactly.
That's really all you need to know.
Yeah. So yeah, usually the lithium battery is kind of a soft sell. You know, it's just kind of is what it is. You kind of need it.
Yeah.
And then the other option at that same price point, it said we have that great Mega Live bundle from Humminbird. It's going to come with a 9-inch Helix 9 Mega Side Imaging. Now this unit, it's not an all-season bundle, so it's not coming with like your open water deucer that'll go on your boat that'll do side imaging, down imaging, and sonar. This unit is capable of doing that. If come open water you want to transfer it to a boat and buy the according transducer for it, it's capable of doing that. But you're going to get a Helix 9, G4N, MSI. You're going to get a Mega Live transducer. You're going to get the pole, get the shuttle, as well as then like the flash, the regular ice fishing transducer for the Humminbird makes. Like it's a $110 transducer that allows you to do that flasher mode like we talked about as well. So if you're just looking at forward-facing sonar, those are two great options to go with. Can't go wrong with either one. Like I always say, any forward-facing sonar is better than none. Right, that's the way you always got to look at it, because it's kind of. I feel for guys, it's kind of a little sad when guys come like, oh, well, I can't get the brand new flash. And I'm like, hey, brother, like that's fine. Like I guarantee you, this is still going to change the way you fish. You can see a crappie 80 feet in front of you. You couldn't do that before. You can cast at it, or you can drill right on top of it. You can watch your buddy punch the auger through the hole and tell him he's 10 feet too short. Like it will, no matter what you get, any forward-facing sonar will change the way you fish, make you a better angler, and give you a better chance at having good days on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And I pretty much exclusively still fish with the 32 transducer versus the new 34. And I find ice fishing, there really isn't any limitations.
Correct.
You know, like every once in a while, it's like maybe fish really hugging tight to the bottom, or like super far away schools of panfish. I would maybe wish I wanted a little more, but it'll do 95% of what I need for
and like
ice.
One thing, especially like you talked about, the one difference between 32 and 34 is like just better target separation on the bottom. A lot of times what I've seen, those fish that don't show up on the 32, but you can see in the 34 because they're so tight to bottom, those fish are tough to catch.
Those tough fish are tough to
catch anyway.
Yeah.
So
those are ones that
almost you don't want to see it, so it doesn't keep you in the
better.
area too long. Like it's almost better. Like it's better off just less is more, ignorance is bliss. You know, you don't see those tight hugging fish. You don't even waste your time trying to catch them. Because a lot of time when those fish are that tight to bottom, good luck.
Yeah, and the thing with the 34, you get what 33% better definition.
I think so, something like
yeah.
that. Yep.
But you're also putting out 33% more sonar waves. So like for those negative fish, it might even be better to use that 32 versus the 34. So it's like it's really give and take with forward facing sonar.
Yeah, so that option from Garmin, the 32 bundle, and then the Mega Live bundle from Humminbird, those are probably your good options. Your better option now, if you want to step up and get the 34 bundle, Garmin makes the exact same thing, exact same bundle, but with an LVS 34 transducer. That's the Live Scope Plus, the one that came out, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago now. I always get like years mixed up because I think of things years more in seasons. So did that come out in the spring or the fall? But let's say like 3 or 4 years ago, how long the Live Scope Plus LVS 34 has been out. So that same exact unit, you're going to get a EchoMap UHD 2.9, 9-inch screen. You're going to get the LVS 34 transducer, black box. And the thing everyone should know is that the LVS 32 system and the LVS 34 system use the same Garmin GLS 10 box. So if you get a 32 bundle, you can just buy the LVS 34 deucer down the road and upgrade your transducer, and everything will work the same. And you'll get that better, further range, better definition, better target separation. So it's something you can look at. Maybe you can't afford the 34 bundle now, because I think that 34 bundle, if I remember correctly, goes for about $3,200 or $3,300. If that's not your budget now, you can still get forward-facing sonar for $2,000, and then maybe down the line, save it for pennies, you can upgrade, so that's a good option for everyone. Another great option is that we bundle that we're putting together in a lot of stores with Lowrance is you can get an Act Target 2 unit, and that's just Lowrance's version of forward-facing sonar. That's the one I personally run and really like. You can get that with Lowrance HDS Pro 10-inch screen, and I can't remember the exact price because you bundle everything together. That'll come with a live sonar shuttle, a pole, battery, everything you need to make it ice fishing. But that one's an all-season bundle. So that one's going to come with your open water deucer to put on your boat come the spring. So that's a little better bang for the buck in that aspect. And that one's going to be right around the same price, if I remember, right around that low $3,000 range. And then if you want to look at best, there's a bundle that we're building in a lot of stores where you can get Garmin 126 SV, a 12-inch screen with an LVS 34 system, an HD Innovation shuttle, AC Innovations pole, amped outdoors battery, and then that's going to also come with the Garmin GT56 transducer, which is their that high resolution side downimaging and 2D sonar transducer. So that's an all-season bundle too, and that one's right around a little more than $4,000. So that's probably your best option. Along with, then there's a GPS map option, which is Garmin's flagship top of the line model. That, if you're an ice castle guy and you want to hook your live scope up to your TV, that is your only option to do that. The GPS map series from Garmin is the only option that has an HDMI input and output. That is the only one you can hook up to a TV. If you're looking to get it in the live scope and you want to hook up to your TV, do not buy an EchoMap. It will not do it. I've had to educate a few people, and unfortunately break a few hearts when I tell them that.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
That's kind of a sad thing. It's like, I bought this because I wanted to hook it up into my ice castle or whatever. It's like, I'm sorry, buddy.
Right, and that bundle, the GPS map with the LVS 34 transducer, that goes for, I believe it was $4,700. I have so many prices. If I don't have the price sheet right in front of me, okay, but ballpark, about $4,700 versus the one I mentioned before that we're building in SCHEELS stores, that 126 bundle is about a little more over $4,000. So think about a $600-700 difference is the difference between hooking up to a TV or not. Some guys, that's a no-brainer. Other guys, you got to chew on that one for a little bit. You already got a 12-inch screen. Do you really need to put it on your 32-inch TV?
Yes.
Yeah,
of course you do.
There's both customers. Some guys absolutely like. I'm dumb for suggesting not.
I mean, if you're gonna buy an ice castle, you might as well get the
might as well. And that's why it's
gonna hook it up to the
That's
TV.
why we have the good, better, and best options to kind of suit whatever needs for anyone out there.
Yeah, and you talked a little about good and better options and like add-ons and stuff. Lithium battery, necessity. You just got to get one. Another one that almost hits that necessity is a different pole for like the Garmin guys, because like if you're fishing with somebody else with forward-facing sonar that's got a aftermarket pole, like they're scanning around, they're fishing, and you're like screwing your pole together. That's miserable. So get yourself a good pole. You'll thank me later.
Yep, there's some great options out there. You know, you can go Bruce City, you can go Fin Gear. The one I'm gonna run this year is the HG Innovations one. That's a new one this year. Yeah, there's great options all around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
At what point do you need to like upgrade?
I guess whenever your budget allows you
Okay.
again. You know.
Mine, when I found out I needed to upgrade, is when it was like negative 10 degrees and I was screwing the pole together, thinking this is absolutely miserable. I need a new one. So that was my tipping
weather,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, it was weather related. Oh, awesome. So, all right, I want you to close this out with one really good fishing story for us, ice fishing story.
Oh, I got a good one from last season. Fishing up at Lake Winnipeg. It was a ball. Had a great time. We made it up for 3 different trips. Went in early February and mid-February, and then again in mid-March. Went with friends from Bemidji, the first one. Went from friends from Fargo and Brew Outdoors here in mid-February, and then went with Jason Mitchell in March. That one was fun because we fished both the north end of Lake Winnipeg, which I had never done before, and Jason hadn't either at the time, up at Hecla Island. And that was a great time. It's completely different than fishing the south end of the lake. You're still catching greenbacks, right? But you're fishing structure, and you're fishing a lot deeper. Like a lot of our fishing there was like 17 to 26 feet versus that's like unheard of on the South Basin, right? You rarely see deep.
You hit 17, you're deep.
Right, yeah, 17 is deep. You know, typically anytime you start talking like 14 plus is deep for Lake Winnipeg standing in the South Basin. But we were filming a show for up north, and then we fished the South Basin as well. It was just kind of cool to compare and contrast both the different size class of fish, because what I learned in doing that, from the locals up there is it's really kind of goes into biology of ecosystems again. How Lake Winnipeg works is, you know, they said the fishing was still phenomenal up north. Like caught a lot of fish, but you didn't see. They said ice fishing. We don't see that many master anglers up here. And in Canada, Manitoba, they have the Master Angler program, which I believe is a 28.5-inch walleye. Is a master angler in Manitoba. If I'm wrong on that, please don't come for me, Canadians. I'm sorry. But
I want to say 28. I'm counting my 28s as masters.
So yeah, let's say 20. But they said they don't see a lot of fish of that class and up in the winter. Because how Lake Winnipeg works, everything follows the shiners. The shiners are the main forage in Lake Winnipeg. So during the fall, those shiners are progressing south, and they winter in the South Basin. Well, that's then the majority of the population of big walleyes follows them and stays in the South Basin for the winter, right? So they still have a lot of resident fish, a lot of great like 20 to 26-inch fish, but that's their common size up north in Hecla during the winter. They said, now if you want to get those masters and have days where you catch 12 fish over 28 inches, you come up here in May and June, and then again actually like late October as well as right now. Like I have a lot of friends who have been to Hecla in the last 2 weeks, and they're 100, 150 fish days, vertical jigging, either jigging minnow or jigging plastic. With like dozens of fish in that master angler class. Like just some of the best walleye fishing you could ever experience is happening right now at Lake Winnipeg and Hecla Island. But it was so fun to do that last year just because it's something I'd never done before, and just had the opportunity to go. I had a great time, got to see a ton of cool stuff and meet a lot of cool people. But then when we went back down to the South Basin, we got some big ones. That was fun. There's one, we shot a show, and there's one scene you'll see where I get like a true master angler. I think the scene the footage cuts on as I'm like already cranking it in, because I was in the ice house camera, we were just talking, waiting for fish to come through. Usually when I start to see one, I'll let them know so we can try and get hook sets, because you want to keep everything as authentic as possible, right? Mm-hmm. We were talking. I didn't even mark this fish. Just came out of nowhere and just wham, set the hook, and my rod just folded in half. Like I felt in the reel handle, I'm like, this is big. Because in the earlier trip, I'd caught one that was just shy of 30, a month ago with the same rod, and that had that rod corked, and this felt the same. I was like, ooh, this is a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. So when it's coming up, I can see at the bottom of the hole, and I see I had it hooked good, but I just had it beak hooked, and it's shaking, it's thrashing at the bottom of the hole, and that's where they get off.
Oh,
especially
yeah,
in Winnipeg because you're barbless. So like I'm like horsing this fish just to keep the line tight, but I don't want to smack into the ice either. So you can see on camera, I'm just going like, come on, please. And it finally turns, and just I had the biggest sigh of relief when it broke the surface at the top of the hole. Just massive head on it, pulled it out, and thing just kept coming, and just had a big stomach on it. Yeah, it was awesome. It was a good time. So yeah, that was one of my favorite trips last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Winnipeg, that place is something special.
It's something special.
Really is.
Probably the only negative about it is once you go, you want to go back, and then you want to go back more and more every year. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right, Jadyn, thank you so much for your time. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Yeah, if you're, in the market for forward-facing sonar, any fishing stuff, visit all the experts like Jadyn at one of our stores, or, head online to scheels.com and get what you need. With that, thank you for listening.